Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about the question of can you just take a multivitamin to make up for deficiencies in your diet. So let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. Alright guys, this is something that seems to always revolve around in the fitness world, and people will say things like, well, if you don't want to eat your veggies or you don't want to do this or that, you can just take a multivitamin and it'll help fill in the gaps. And I've heard other people even suggest that, you could use it just as an insurance policy to make sure that you're getting all your vitamins and minerals. Now, I don't necessarily agree with this. I don't agree with either one. And I know a lot of people say that, but it's kind of like at a certain point you got to look at people, because I think Callie Muscle had said this before. He's like, I don't eat vegetables. It's like, if you are a grown-ass man, and you cannot eat fruits and vegetables, at least for your health, you can't find a way to get vegetables that you eat, I've really got to question the fact if you're an adult or not. Again, that sounds like a little 5-year-old child. They don't want to eat their vegetables. This is not something that grown-ass men and women should have a problem with. And okay, if you don't like vegetables, then fine, eat some fruit. It's the next best thing. But the idea is kind of ludicrous. It's kind of ludicrous. And what people need to keep in mind when we're talking about vitamin and mineral deficiencies and everything, we're talking about peak performance here. This is not about health really so much, because truth be told, in the Western world, particularly like the United States, North America, vitamin deficiencies that are not due to some medical issue are relatively rare. They're actually rare. And people say, what do you mean? We eat a lot of junk food. We eat a lot of food that doesn't have all the nutritional value. Yeah, that's true, but we eat so much food and we eat so many calories that we still are rarely deficient in anything. And if you are, there is usually a medical cause. And if there's a medical cause, or you have some malabsorption issue or something else, this is something that a doctor can look at and possibly diagnose. They can prescribe you vitamins, because that's the other thing. When you're buying vitamins from a supplement company, you don't really know that you're getting what's in it. Supplement industry is not regulated very well. It's not regulated very well. And in fact, I would say you need to be very, very, very careful about putting anything into your body that you buy from a supplement company. In fact, unless a product has been tested with independent reviews like consumer reviews and stuff, you're not very bright. I'm going to put it that way. You're not very educated on the topic if you actually consume something that you bought from a supplement company, because there's been a lot of cases of heavy metals and stuff found in them, large amounts of cases of stuff not being labeled correctly. There have been large numbers of cases of drugs being spiked into your various supplements. So it's not something you should just be doing, I'm just going to take a bunch of supplements. Have you seen independent reviews that had nothing to do with the owners of that company getting lab results and stuff for these products? Have you seen the lab reports, independent lab reports looking at it from something like consumer reviews? If you have not, for that specific brand and that product, I don't even advise that you take it. The supplement industry is that shady. They really are, and they've been caught repeatedly, tons of these companies. You don't just take stuff that they sell, because they'll kill you. They don't care. They don't care. And they have protections in place because they lobby for it to allow them to do things that, say, drug manufacturers could never legally get away with. And in fact, even food manufacturers get less leeway oftentimes than the supplement industry does. It's really interesting how they've kind of maneuvered with this stuff. You start changing those laws, it'll be a different story. But you've got to be aware of that. So you don't even know that what you're getting is correct. You don't know that you're actually getting what you think you're getting. You might think you are, but you don't know it. So we have that to contend with. But when we start looking at the most common deficiencies, they're already addressed. Meaning, you see all these vitamin fortified foods that are out there, start looking through them. Do you know why? Like, why is this cereal fortified? Why is this milk fortified? Because they determined a long time ago what the most common deficiencies are here in the modern world, and they just add them to certain foods, right? They're just added into there to reduce the likelihood of it happening, and this is done at a much cheaper cost, and it's done with regulations by the FDA and USDA and all of that. They regulate this stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on. So the most common deficiencies are already addressed. So that's why you don't see that many in terms of health problems. And if you do, it's usually someone eating a really horribly deficient diet. And there have been cases of this. There are people out there who literally eat nothing but fast food. There are people out there who literally do not eat whole foods of any type. They have been found. There are people who eat nothing but hamburgers and pizza and stuff like that, and literally go months at a time without consuming anything else. They do exist. They're out there. They've been found. But barring people like that, you're not likely to get major deficiencies from a health perspective. But your supplementation could create deficiencies. But then we come over and let's talk about these deficiencies and everything else and peak performance. You start talking about vitamin and minerals, multivitamins and stuff, and people say, well, it's an insurance policy. Well, is it? Are you sure it is? Are you sure you're not going to get a toxic level of some metal in there? Because you might. Because how many of us here who lift and train consume a lot of calories? Most of us. We consume more calories, those of us who train, usually than the average moderately obese person. It's a general rule. I mean, I'm losing weight right now on something in the range. My average for the day is probably 3,000 throughout the week as I stagger my calories a bit. I average about 3,000 a day. I dropped down to 215 this week. I've dropped 3 pounds. Now, granted, I set at 218 for like 2 weeks straight, and then I dropped to 215. All right, I'm losing weight on that. Well, not really doing cardio either. So, for those of us who train, we eat a lot of calories. I mean, that's weight loss for me. We also tend to eat more whole foods. You see, the problem we're getting to here, we're probably consuming almost excessive amounts of a lot of vitamins and minerals, and that's fine if they're ones that don't hurt you. What happens when you go add them back in pill form? Let's say you already are getting more than the RDA, already what you need for optimal performance on a couple of most of the metals, right? What happens when you start adding a multivitamin in that has 100% of the RDA on all those metals again? Well, you do create the risk of toxicity, right? You create the risk of health problems. What else do you create? The risk for malabsorption. What I mean is that there are metals that have been found that if you consume in excess, they block your ability to absorb other ones. Zinc is a perfect example. Zinc supplementation has got popularized. Lobliner always claims he has something to do with that. Well, that's not necessarily a good thing. People will say, well, you're not going to get toxic levels of zinc by supplementing these multivitamins. No, you probably won't. Odds are that you won't, because you would probably need to be consuming, 6,000-7,000 calories a day and then adding that in there to reach your toxic levels, right? But there is also a threshold, though, to where when you consume too much zinc, what happens? What does it block? Copper. It will block your ability to absorb copper. So your insurance policy, your multivitamin, could be creating an actual deficiency. And it's not a deficiency because you're not consuming enough of something. You're creating a deficiency because you're over-consuming something that has the potential to block your body's ability to absorb something else. So if you consume way too much zinc, your body can't absorb copper correctly. Well, you could develop a copper deficiency. And adding more copper to your diet won't help because it's a malabsorption issue that you've created. So you start getting into stuff like that, and in this case, your multivitamin could push you past that threshold of intake of something that blocks your ability to absorb something. Well, then what happens? You're a person whose diet is not deficient in anything, but you still have created an artificial deficiency. So now your diet is imbalanced and deficient. And it could be due to your multivitamin or your supplement. That doesn't work. So your problem you run into is that you are just as likely to create a problem with it as you are to fix a problem. Furthermore, we start talking about an insurance policy. Here's what we find. A lot of vitamins and minerals and everything else, when we isolate them and study them in humans, even if we give them to them in large quantities orally just by themselves, they don't always have the same effect. They don't always have the same effect as if we consume them from foods. It seems like sometimes in order to metabolize and utilize these things correctly, they need to be in combinations, not just each other, but things like certain amounts of fiber and phytonutrients and other things found in our foods. So in other words, we do better with some vitamins and minerals, not all of them. Some vitamins and minerals, it's found that we absorb them or utilize them and metabolize them tremendously better when they are found in the whole matrix of a food. than if we take them separately. Well, the problem you run into is they're just trying to combine them all separately into these multivitamins. You see the problem here? It isn't as effective. It may not be the insurance policy at all, because you might be deficient in one of those vitamins or minerals that seems to need a food matrix to absorb correctly, and then you're taking it in this form instead of eating foods. Then what happens? You still end up with a deficiency or a metabolism issue with it, that you run into problems. This is not a valid insurance policy. What it is a con man product, snake oil product created by the vitamin industry many, many years ago, that has now become popularized, that is arguably not necessarily helpful. We could argue about whether it's helpful or not. There's some data showing it is, some data showing it isn't, but then we have other data showing that in some cases it can actually be harmful to you. So now you're buying something that has the potential to harm you and create a deficiency in the hopes of taking it as an insurance policy against deficiency. That's not a good idea. That's not going to work. My tip to people is just eat better food, right? Eat a balanced diet. Eat a balanced diet of mostly whole foods. Eat your vegetables, eat your fruits, and all of this will go away. It'll go away. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.